Hello there.
Hey everyone.
It's Team Gresty here with our live event today. So I'm Rhiannon Gresty, Mike Mayers, Ron Gresty, and we have with us today attorney Sarah Miller.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about what happens on the legal end of the transaction. Once you sign those contracts, like the purchase and sales, and what kind of happens, I guess, behind the scenes, with the title search and, all the stuff that goes along with the process on the side that Sarah deals with. So, so if you're here, Mike is here. Hi, Mike.
It's the wonders of modern technology.
Yeah, so if you chime in, say hi, wave to us. If you have any questions during all of this, chime in and ask away. So we'll start, you make the offer, you come to terms. The attorneys work on drafting the purchase and sales contract, and maybe you can touch a little bit on, what kind of happens with the purchase and sale, like how that all comes together, and then we can kind of go through the process from there.
Sure. So from the offer, the attorneys negotiate the purchase and sale agreement, and there are very important things that go into that. For example, if you don't own your hot water heater, we need to know that, because legally we need to disclose that, and that goes into the contract.
Right.
And then how is that going to be dealt with? Is it a situation where it needs to be bought out by you, or, is it a situation where the new owner is going to take over that lease agreement? Right. And so the pros and cons, and we all kind of discuss that together. What's the best way? And that's one of the things. Our appliance is going to be
I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
And one thing is, generally that they'll be in operable condition, the same condition they are at the time of inspection.
Mm-hmm.
But that, they'll be as is, so not brand new. So if something happens, and we look down the line, what do we do?
Right.
The credit for something like that would be for, kind of a middle of the road or used appliance in that regard. So, and, the contract does say that usually that it's subject to marketable and insurable title to the property. And we can talk a little bit about that later on in a few minutes.
So the offer contract, which is the initial contract for the purchase, the purchase and sales is a little bit more in depth. There's a little bit more that goes into it. I guess explain some of the things that, are more, between the offer and the purchase and sales.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, for example, the purchase and sale agreement includes casualty loss provision. What happens if the house were to burn down before closing? So that's not something that's generally negotiated in the offer, but usually the buyer would either have the right to cancel the contract or take an assignment of insurance proceeds, and usually we negotiate also the deductible would go to the buyer as well, so that they're made whole. And so that's a provision that is negotiated in the contract. Other principal things that are the same: the mortgage commitment deadlines are the same, the closing date are the same, the closing cost credit. Sometimes we alter that language just to make sure that it works for both parties.
Right.
But generally, there are things that that the parties maybe don't really think about at the initial signing. So casualty loss is definitely a good one. Marketable title is something that often clear title is mentioned in the offer to purchase, but we expand on that in the purchase and sale agreement.
Right. Everything is just explained in a little bit in more depth.
More detail. So for example, betterment assessments. It used to be that we'd see a lot in contracts that if a property was assessed something, like, okay, you're going to be assessed for this new sewer line that's coming in. That would be something that, automatically is just going to be passed on to the buyer. But now we change that to be as of the date of closing. So that if an assessment comes in from the time your offer is accepted and you close, you have the right to review what that is. And if you don't want it, you can back out.
Right.
So that's something that's addressed in more detail in the purchase and sale.
So once both parties come to terms with that, and you can touch on both the buyer and the seller side as far as what happens when you do the title search. What's involved with that? I know a lot of people have, they question it. They have no idea what actually happens and why you do the title search and why it's so important for the sale.
Right, and it's something that's not really talked about.
Right.
I mean, there's so many important things that you're all working on, inspection negotiations and the buyer, and the appraisal, and the buyer working through the loan application, and all this is going on.
Right.
But behind the scenes, we're doing all this extensive research.
Right.
So we go back well over 50 years, usually, in a title search of the chain of ownership of the property, not just from maybe when the house was built, but the land even before that.
Right.
And so all the records are searched all the way through, and to make sure that there's no defect or missing link in the chain of ownership. So, for example, if the property passed through someone's estate, was that all done properly?
Right.
Did we have, all the beneficiaries involved? Did everyone who need to sign off? Does everything look good? Are all the deeds in proper order? Every time a mortgage was paid off, a lien was paid off, do we see a discharge for all of that? And there are a lot of problems and issues that can come up with that title search, but it doesn't mean that you cannot sell your property or you cannot buy your property.
And they definitely do come up.
Yes, there are
Quite often.
lots of, more often than not these days, I
they
think,
really do.
actually.
Yeah.
And so the buyer's attorney and the seller's attorney usually work together to clear those issues. And find the best solution and the quickest solution, but also the way to really clean it up as well. That's definitely, and at the same time, we order what's called a municipal lien certificate on the property, which is a record of all the municipal charges on the property, primarily property taxes, real property taxes. And if the city or town has gas and electric through the city or town, and water and sewer through the city or town, if there's any thing in arrears, that will show that as well. So it's a record of where we are, and that's how we make an adjustment at closing. Another item in the purchase and sale that the buyer and seller agree, they'll adjust those figures as of the closing date. So if you've paid taxes through June 30th, but you're closing sooner, you're gonna get a credit for that at closing. And the municipal lien
Just with
certificate
fuel
helps
costs
us.
and stuff like that. Like
Sure. Fuel as well, right? So
Yeah.
if you have oil and you've paid a certain amount per gallon, and there's a certain
The
amount
seller
of gallons left.
It's credited back the cost of what's in the tank.
Yeah, and that's an important one too. Yeah. And we also order a mortgage inspection plan, which is like a little plot plan of the property, which will show us if there's, it does mention whether the property's in a flood zone or not, even though the lender is also conducting an assessment of that as well. But if it appears like there may be an encroachment of some sort, is someone's garage on your property, is
Or pool.
Mike has personally dealt with this
your
before.
garage on someone else's property, or
Yeah.
pool, or
Or the driveway on
fence.
somebody else's property.
right, and that's not uncommon for those things to come. So it's important to work that out and know. Sometimes you'll see too that there is an easement recorded already for that, and the surveyor can usually find that as well, because when they go out to do it, they're actually looking at the records as well.
Yeah.
And if we know something in advance, we let them know as well that that's going on. So we're looking at all of that, and we're looking to see, do we have insurable title and marketable title? So, so marketable title, you really just want to make sure that, especially if down the line, you are, trying to refinance or sell, that there's not anything that even looks, wrong of the record. But if you do purchase what's called owner's title insurance, that gives you added assurances that if something comes up that couldn't reasonably have been caught, that you are 100% protected. So, for example, a title search attorney going in and looking and examining all these deeds might not be aware that a deed was forged, but later somehow there could be evidence brought forth, and if you have that owner's title insurance, you are protected.
Right.
And
Definitely a very
for a
good thing to have.
swift
Yes.
sale
It's a
closing.
very important thing to have for sure.
And it's
yeah.
just a one-time cost that you pay at the closing. And if you're getting a loan at the same time, you get a discount for both, and it's that one-time fee, and you have that protection. And so many people buy it and forget, and then they go to sell and they say, "Oh, I don't know," but most
Right.
likely, you do have this owner's policy that will protect you. So
Right.
when you're selling, if you've got that and some issue comes up, don't panic.
Right.
You've got that coverage, and it's really good. Very, very
Absolutely. That's
important
great.
thing to consider.
If anybody has any questions out there, feel free to
Questions?
ask.
Any questions? Is there any-
He's got it.
anything showing up?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. Well, if you do, chime in. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
Like I said, come in, wave at us. Let us know you're here. Come join us.
Say hi.
So is there any other kind of like fees associated with the closing or any other things that you think might be kind of important to know about?
So there is a cost for the title search. It averages $200 to $250 dollars for a purchase, and that's
Right.
paid. It depends. There are areas of Worcester County where the seller actually pays for it. Other counties, the buyer pays that cost.
Yep.
The plot plan can be $125 to $225
Right.
for that. The municipal lien certificate is no more than $75 and usually no less than $25. If you're buying commercial property, it can be a little more expensive. But those are kind of part of it. Recently, the state recording fees went up as of December 30th. So it was to record a deed, which is the buyer's responsibility. The cost of the recording of the deed was $125, and that's now $155.
Oh,
It's gone up
okay.
$30.
That's good to
To
know.
record a
that's very good.
mortgage was $175, and that's now $205. And the municipal lien certificate used to be $65 to record. That's actually now $80. And the homestead, the declaration of homestead, which we should probably touch upon,
Mhm.
that fee did not change. It is still $35. And the declaration of homestead, as you know, protects you against a forced sale of your property if someone ever sues you or
Right.
gets a judgment against you. You can't be forced to lose your property if you occupy that as your primary residence. So
Right.
for a $35 recording fee, it's a
That's
nice
pretty
added
important.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think so.
Definitely.
up to $500,000 in the
Right.
equity that you have in your property. So
Right.
Absolutely.
that's after. So the recording fees, the change in recording fees, it's gotten a little bit more expensive. And the seller really only has, it's the discharge of your mortgage and your transfer tax.
Right. Their closing
So-
costs are much different
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
opposed to a buyer. Obviously, they have lender fees and stuff like that, or that bring it up. So
Right, so a transfer tax of $4.56 per
Right.
thousand of your purchase price, and then used to be $75, it's now $105 to record the discharge of your mortgage. Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, is there anything else you think that would be important for maybe someone doesn't know, or something that you think they should know about?
So as a buyer, there's the truth in lending disclosure regulations. So if you are financing it through a lender and you're going to live at the property, you need to get your closing costs in advance of the closing. So 3
Right.
business days prior to the closing, you'll be asked to sign a closing disclosure
Right.
that sets forth what you need to bring into the closing. And it's always one check for whatever remainder of your down payment and your any remaining closing costs.
Right. Right.
So that's kind of, I find a lot of times people say, oh, I just bring one check, because you'd think you'd be kind of bring your checkbook and kind of write, but one
One
bank
check.
check for
Yep.
the,
One amount.
so.
It does have to be a bank check, not
Yes.
not a
Yes.
personal check.
No personal checks,
Right.
no money orders.
Yes.
Um, yes, for sure. So awesome. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing all this with us and everybody. Thank you for joining us. Sarah Miller, she has her offices, her one office in East Long Meadow. law offices of Sarah A. Miller. So if you have any questions now or even after we're done, chime in, and I'm sure Sarah will be happy to answer those too. And thanks for joining us. I hope this was really helpful, and we'll see you next time.
Happy buying, happy selling.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.